This is weird, but I'm Elizabeth. If you were here this morning, you already heard me do my little spiel about who I am. But one of my favorite things about my job is that I get to kind of visit schools and see what their needs are, and then go back to the university and figure out how we can meet those needs. What resources the university has that might be able to meet those needs. This is.
You're going to have to hold it.
Yeah, I'm going to hold it. We'll see. So that's where, no. That's where this program, Adopt a Classroom, originated. Was really from a visit, actually several visits with some superintendents. And so I'm going to talk today a little bit about this program, Adopt a Classroom, that pairs university faculty with K-12 teachers. And then, way better than me talking about it, will be the other people talking. Jean Kephart, who is a teacher who was involved in this program at Lincoln New Tech High School. Morgan Prince, who's a student who is involved in this program. Rebecca Martindale, who works at the university and was involved. And then Dr. Ron Warren, who is a professor at the university and was involved in the program. So they're going to share briefly about their experiences because their viewpoint, of course, is much different than mine as the program administrator. Since it's a small group, can I find out where you all are from? Tamika, I know where you're from. Tamika's from Springdale. Where are you from?
Springdale.
Springdale too? Any other Springdale people? Wow, like half of everybody. Okay, that's great. Where are you from? Lincoln. Okay, great.
Huntsville School District, St. Paul School.
Oh, great. You work with Daisy?
Yes.
Okay, great. Love Daisy. You know how much I love to tweet, but not as much as Daisy loves to tweet. I mean, she loves Twitter.
First thing this morning, I thought if Daisy were here.
She would have loved it. You'll have to tell her.
I will.
You'll have to tell her because I do know Daisy a little bit. So thank you for being here. Where are you from? Did you say Springdale too?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The Office for Education Policy.
Great. Glad you're here. You too? Okay. Awesome. Ladies, we work on the same floor probably. I work on the second floor in grad ed, but I don't always see people since I'm out in schools a lot. And then Bev is from ADE.
Beverly Roman, ADE.
Yes. You all said Springdale as well. Great. Glad to have a fun group in here. Let me start by just telling you a little bit about my office and what we do, because I think it'll help create context for this program. So I have this grant called the Education Renewal Zone, which is funded by ADE to promote collaboration between the university and public schools. And there's lots of goals, because of course this was written by legislators and they have lots of overarching goals, which are really important. But we're just working to create programs to make progress toward these goals, right? And there are 6 of us throughout the state. UA Fort Smith has one, Southern Arkansas has a few, and then over in Northeast Arkansas has one as well. There's a lot of things that my office is doing. Adopt a Classroom is just one of them. It might be my favorite, I shouldn't say that. But it's a really exciting thing that we're doing because we get to really bring the university and public schools together. But the P20 task force that I talked about this morning, that is something that I started with Marcia at the co-op, and so that's another one of our big programs. We started a thing called Future Teachers Day, which is a way to recruit local Northwest Arkansas students. We're really trying to reach out to students from diverse ethnic and racial backgrounds in Northwest Arkansas to recruit them to be teachers, and then trying to get them to stay and teach in Northwest Arkansas. So that's what Future Teachers Day is about. Different professional development and things, and then Adopt a Classroom. So I told you that Adopt a Classroom really started because of some conversations I had with superintendents. When I first started this job 3 years ago, I think, I met with a lot of partner superintendents in Northwest Arkansas. And one thing they said repeatedly was that they were interested in learning about how they could get the people that work at the university out into their schools. They felt like, especially in certain areas, there are lots of folks at the university who have expertise in different areas. They wanted to get them out to work with teachers. So I started to think more about what that might look like. And it's really funny to me because there were naysayers on both sides as I came up with this idea of Adopt a Classroom. Folks at the university said, oh, no, teachers do not want us in their classroom. And I had a couple principals that said, do you really think any faculty will volunteer for this? They don't care about what we're doing. And both were wrong, right? There were a lot of people who wanted to partner on both sides. So I came up with this program where teachers would volunteer to be paired with a U of A faculty or staff member. We've also had, I think I've had one doctoral student a cotton physiologist that volunteered, so that worked too. And then U of A faculty volunteered to participate. No one's getting any stipends. No one's getting tenure at the university level, of course. It's all service designed to promote collaboration and to kind of promote awareness of what's going on the other side. So we encourage the partners to bring students to campus, and I think both of the other speakers will talk about that today. And we cover the expenses. So the My Grant covers the cost of bringing students to campus, or mileage for professors to go out to schools. One of our professors was, well, probably 3 of our professors this year were in Gentry. Well, that's 30 miles each way, so the mileage adds up. So little things like that, My Grant covers, so it's no cost to the school or to the professor. So what are the purposes? Number 1, build collaborative relationships between P12 educators and higher education. So again, trying to get out of our silos and work across the gap. The U of A faculty or staff member present has up-to-date content knowledge. When I started this 3 years ago, we were just rolling out Common Core, and several principals said, my ex-teacher needs a greater depth of knowledge in this one area. Can you bring a cotton physiologist who can talk about this very specific thing? And I could, So with moving to greater depth in classrooms, faculty became a really important resource because of the depth of their knowledge. But it's not just from the university to P12 teachers. Our university folks were really learning a lot from K-12 and P-12 teachers. The K-12 teachers offer insights into current school practices. This is not the case for the people speaking today, but there are other people who have been involved who haven't been in a classroom since they were in 12th grade. Okay? So when students come to the university, they might be prone to have an opinion of the high school from which they came, or the school, the K-12 system, having never really experienced what it's like to stand up in front of a classroom of 18-year-olds or 5-year-olds. We had some folks going on into kindergarten. And so our university people, some of them, were able to really learn a lot from being with a classroom teacher and being in a classroom. And then I didn't even plan for this purpose, but I discovered through some of the evaluations, the K-12 students were learning a lot about higher ed through this too. And it was breaking down a barrier for them, because they were then seeing Dr. Ron Warren, who looks like a totally normal human being, right? He's not scary. He's really friendly, and he comes in and he talks about Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and suddenly maybe college isn't that foreign of an idea anymore. It's not. This is being recorded, but all college professors don't look like Joel Freund. And I love him. He's wonderful. He's a psychology professor. You can't see it, but he's holding a brain, a human brain. Yeah, I didn't touch it, but these 7th graders did, okay? So he was working on a brain, and he does work on a brain. He does research on brains and has a human brain, and he took it to his classroom in Farmington, and the 7th grade students got to show it. He looks like a stereotypical professor, that if you walked into the class on a Monday morning, your first day of school as a college student, you would think, oh, that's the professor. I'm in for it now at college. But some of the people that teach at the university look like Rebecca and me and Ron, right? And so getting those students in front of kids as young as 5 helps to break down that college barrier for them, or so I found. Let's get away from Joel's picture. Okay, so that's what I wanted to tell you about the program overview to begin with. I will tell you before Ron starts talking that after people volunteer, I sit down and look at all their content areas and try to figure out how to make matches. And typically, like I'll use Tara as an example. This is Tara. Tara, Dr. Dreyer, I should call you, formerly had a career in business education, now runs the global campus, teaches classes in education, and a variety of things. Because I knew her background, I paired her with a business teacher at Elkins High School. So they were a good match in content. I had a different teacher, a science teacher at an elementary school, who wanted an arts person. So we put her with an MFA in drama. So she went in and did readings in her science class. So teachers sometimes made specific requests to have someone that matched their content area or someone totally different. And I tried to meet those needs as they requested. And then we had a training for the faculty where we talked about basic things like, how do you check into a school? You need to take your ID in. Don't roam around like a stranger, Basic things like that, but also important things like what is Common Core? What do teachers mean when they're talking about it? Of course, we didn't give an in-depth session on it, but we wanted them to just know the language a little bit for when they would be out in schools. And then we brought teachers in, and we had a welcome reception where teachers and faculty met for the first time. They got to understand the program, and then they had protected time to plan. So they had a little over an hour where they set out the dates they would meet for the year. They set out what kind of content they were interested in covering. And that could go one way or the other. Either the professor could say, here's what I know, here's my research area, here's what I teach. Can I fit that into your class? Can I come teach that once a month? Or the teacher could say, like in the case of Dr. Freund, the teacher, Sean Bell, said to Dr. Freund, we're studying the brain in 7th grade science these days. Well, Dr. Freund said, I have a brain. I can bring it, I can actually bring you a brain. And so that was a really good match. And then the professor would go out once a month for the entire year. And once a month meant different things to different people. Ron is an overachiever, and he would go one day a month, and he taught every 7th grader at Elkins Middle School. So he stayed for the entire day. Kevin Fitzpatrick did the same thing at Fayetteville High School. I don't specify because I want to leave it open to people. Other people go and teach one period, which is also great. It depends on what works for the teacher and the professor. Okay. Would you have any questions about the general setup of the program or the overview? Okay, we'll get to the more interesting stuff. Casey could not be here today. She's in Little Rock. She is the 7th grade teacher at Elkins Middle School who teaches English, who volunteered. And then Dr. Ron Warren is the person that we were able to match her with. So, Ron, I'll let you come up and take this awesomeness.
That lovely portable microphone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
This ought to be enough to hold for a while. Good morning. I was very fortunate to work with Casey's classes at Elkins Middle School. Mostly when I was volunteering to do the project, it sprung mostly from my interest in my research area. My principal research area is children in media, and much of my work has looked at the way that media technologies are used in education and the way that media literacy objectives are implemented in 50 states around the country in their formal learning objectives. So I have a slight interest in the Common Core and how all of this gets translated into Common Core. So I just told Casey, tell me what you're working on, and I'll try not to come in and mess everything up for you for one day a month, and then hopefully tie it into what the kids were learning. So between snow and ice storms, we decided that we would just treat these as sort of a fun day, a day to take what they're sort of talking about in class, some of the standard elements of their ELA curriculum, and tie it into media literacy lessons. So one of the first things that I did was something I called a reality lesson. The reality lesson took a book that they'd been reading as part of their literature component in the class. They happened to be reading Call of the Wild by Jack London. And I had noted that NBC had just finished airing a summer reality contest show that some of the kids had seen called Get Out of the Wild with Bear Grylls, who most of the kids knew from his days on the Discovery Channel. So we sort of did a little mashup called Get Out of Call of the Wild Alive, Jack London meets Bear Grylls. And the idea of the reality lesson was to get kids to understand a couple of things. They looked at clips from the show, talked about what they thought was believable in the show, the parts they were a little suspicious of. 7th grade's a great time in child development because kids get really skeptical about media content right during the middle school years. And so the kids talked about parts of the show that they thought were real, parts that seemed a little staged or a little faked, and we tied that into a lesson where I could talk to them and help them explore how television was using fictional elements in reality programming, and then talk a little bit about how television viewers assess whether TV messages are realistic, whether advertising is realistic. And I knew that this was going to work well when the first group of kids walked in and all the boys were in their hunting fatigues. I knew that was going to go well that day. And so the kids kind of enjoyed, I think what they enjoyed most was having to watch TV as part of their English class that day. But later in the semester, I did a lesson called What's in a Bag of Doritos? Sometimes I vary this, what's in a bottle of Coke, what's in a can of Pringles, etc. The whole thing here is centered on values advertising and a concept that we actually teach in our freshman course at U.of.A. called the principle of association. What the kids learn is that in product categories and advertising, where there's really not a lot of difference between one brand of the product and the next, when there's very little product differentiation, advertising instead has to rely on the principle of association to associate positive values with their product. So in the lesson, the kids learn what's in a bag of Doritos really isn't Doritos. It's these clowns, right? It's fun, it's father-daughter activity, it's dads who want to get their hands on a bag of Doritos and aren't afraid to wear a little makeup and dress up like ding-dongs so they can get a bag of Doritos. And then we looked at that in a bunch of different ads. What's the ad really selling if it's not selling the product? And in most cases, the ad's selling values that they want you to associate with their brand name when you see it in the grocery store. So that was a good chance for them to sort of play around. This was a February lesson that was sort of paired up about the time of the Super Bowl. Not an unpopular topic with 7th graders. And then the last time that I went out, I did a lesson called Cracking the Gender Code, where students looked at their social media accounts and the way that they enact gender stereotypes on their social media accounts. We did a bit of a gender bender exercise there. The boys had to compose a social profile, a Facebook profile for a girl. The girls had to compose a Facebook profile for a boy and then present them to each other, and then each side of the room got to critique. Here's what's realistic, here's what's kind of stereotypical, and they could talk about the way that people act like a man, act like a lady on their Facebook account, and do that to sort of present themselves and generate an online identity. So again, all 3 lessons were relatively interesting for the kids, but they were also designed to sort of tag on themes that Casey had been trying to deliver with the ELA curriculum in the school. So mostly what I wanted to do there was make sure that we didn't get in the way of the curriculum too much. Now, I don't know if the next slide's mine. Okay, so I'll just take a couple of minutes here. I probably won't go the whole 10 minutes, but we ended the year with a visit. 95, was it 95?
Yes.
95 7th graders invaded the University of Arkansas campus one sunny day. All in matching purple t-shirts, if I remember.
If you scroll back to your first slide, I put a couple of pictures.
Oh yeah, there they are. So what we tried to do for them during the day is give them the standard nickel tour of campus, which they all kind of enjoyed but got sick of in about 5 minutes walking around campus. And then we had a couple of presentations. A colleague of mine that works on civic video gaming technologies, we have a grant application out to develop a video game that will help kids become civically engaged in their local communities. He did a presentation on his video game lab, which the kids lapped up like they'd been looking for it their whole lives. A few of the kids left that presentation and said, I didn't even know you could do video games in college. And we tried to stress to them that, of course, every college student's doing video games in college. It's just a question of learning about it. That's the element they might not have expected. And then the engineering college did a session with them where they gave them sort of a tower building challenge. I think the kids basically enjoyed that, and they got tours of the architecture school, tour campus. I can't remember, did they see anything else that day, Elizabeth?
Well, they saw that the bottom picture is the maker lab that the school of architecture has, so they got to see 3D printer, laser cutters.
Yeah, they got to see some really cutting-edge architectural design technology in the newly expanded School of Architecture. But I have to tell you, their favorite part of the entire day was lunch. They walked in and they just looked around and they just froze, and I said, what's going on? And they said, can we really just go anywhere? And I said, uh-huh. And can we come back for seconds? I said, you can eat as much as you can eat in the next 25 minutes. Bang, they took off. and the cafeteria was invaded. That only stopped when one of the varsity basketball players showed up for lunch. That poor guy picked the wrong day to eat in the cafeteria, and they went after him to take selfies. That was their favorite part of the entire day. So I think it's a fair assessment to say they enjoyed their visit. But they were noticed as well. People kept asking me about that. Did you see all those kids running around in purple shirts? No. Were they nice? Oh, yeah, they were great. Anyway, so I did thoroughly enjoy my participation in the program. And as I said, it's a research area of mine anyway, so I really was grateful for the chance to sort of share that with a practicing teacher and to be reminded of the fact that teaching a solid day, 8 to 4, will wipe you out. So anyway, thank you.
Well, a quick question.
Go ahead.
Sure.
You want to hold on to that while she's asking, so you can
Yeah.
record.
Okay.
The trip that you guys took to the U of A, how does that get, like, as far as like lunch and all that stuff, how does that get funded? Is that through you guys, or is it through?
That is through the kind logistical expertise and financing of Elizabeth's office of the ERC.
So the buses, the food.
Yeah,
and
so
all
we
that?
reimbursed the school for all their buses. I think there were 4 that came from Elkins, and we paid for the food for all the students and everything. And my assistant, who's amazing with logistics, organized everything. So we had groups and small groups and groups upon groups. And she kind of organized everyone's schedule. And then Ron, recruited Dave to do the video game presentation and everything. So we kind of pulled everybody together.
I think the big goal for Casey was just to get her students to set foot on a college campus and kind of walk the space. It's an old theater trick, right? If you get nervous in a room that you're going to speak in, get into the space ahead of time and walk the space so it's not so intimidating. And we tried to just kind of follow up on that with every visit to her classroom. Show them things that I might do with my students in my freshman level course, get them onto campus just so they could see what it's like. Even though, that kind of surprised me. Elkins is pretty close to U of A. Hardly any of those kids had been to our campus before, and it's not that far of a trip.
Elkins, the middle school in particular is about 50 to 60% free reduced lunch. Of course, the numbers dropped to about 40% for the high school, but they also have a good percentage of students who are first-generation students, which was similar to Lincoln. I'm sure you'll hear about that. So we tried to, the last session, if you were in the session where Clay Hendricks was talking, he was talking about the experience gap, right? So students who are from low-income families don't have the same experiences.
Right.
And so this was aimed at shortening that little gap.
Yeah. And last thing I'll say, that was really helpful for me because as a high school student, I had graduated from a school in Michigan that was maybe 1/3 the size of Elkins. And so it was tiny, tiny, tiny. Yeah, basically. And so it really helped for the kids to sort of know that I came from a small town as a first-generation college student, and it's really not that bad. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to have Jean come up and Morgan come up so they can be on camera. And Tara, do you know if this thing will pick them up if they're talking? Is it going to be iffy? Okay, so I'll try to stay in close proximity. Jean, you want to sit right here, and then that way we can get everybody in the shot. And I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Rebecca Martindale, and I work for the College of Education and Health Professions, and my expertise is in technology integration. And especially with teacher professional development and that kind of thing. And I'm really interested in how teachers are integrating technology into the K-12 classroom. I'm working on a doctorate, but my title at the university is Director of Web Information and Instructional-Based Services. So I do a lot of stuff. And so I got involved with the EAST initiative kind of by accident. I was actually supposed to get with another teacher, and for different reasons, she was... see if I can tag this on me so I don't have to hold it. She wasn't able to participate, so I was kind of fortunate in that I got to work with the EAST initiative. I knew a little bit about an EAST formerly, but what I like about EAST is it's so project-based and project-oriented, and I'm a former project manager, so that kind of aligned with what I do. So let me go forward here. And see, okay, so I want to talk about the project management side of it. Now, Rick was real good at having lessons when he went into the class, but I've been more interactive in the terms of what projects are you working on, how can I help you develop the projects, And we've talked about maybe, because I've decided to adopt them for another year. So that's how much fun I had with it. So one of the things we've talked about is maybe me developing a series of classes with the kids on what is project management, what does it mean to start up a project, so that they're learning that skill along the way. And you want to tell them a little bit about what EAST does? I'm going to stand near him in case you can't.
EAST basically is a class that's student-driven. There's no textbooks, no testing. Kids use community service projects as part of the curriculum. And what I do is facilitate the instruction in workplace skills. I'm also occasionally certified, so I've added a workforce technology piece to it, so I have 2 frameworks I work under. We do EAST basically as a career developer. Get the kids out there. Remember, small communities, I think mentioned already that they don't. There's that gap there between small communities where the kids can get out and get the same kind of experience as someone in a larger city. So EAST kind of provides a little bit of that filling for that gap. We try to get them out of the classroom into the community. And the nice part about this is that we've done the community. We've done our local school district, and it gets very repetitive when you can't go out and do a lot more extensive type of projects. And this program came along, and it just rocks. It fit right into our need right at the right time. It was karma that
It was kismet.
First
Yeah.
choice didn't work out. It's been a great pairing. We started in the spring, so we only had 1 semester with Rebecca in the program, but it's getting a lot of stuff, groundwork laid down, and the kids are responding to it slowly because it's a shock.
Yeah.
To be able to sit down and talk to an adult at a common level, rather than do it as a different groups of people, like how to behave this way. To have all that stuff like left outside and you can sit down in the classroom and talk to somebody on an equal basis. It's really some of these kids are stepping up to that. And we expect next fall to have a lot more because we have some good examples of some successes this year.
Over here, yeah, that's better.
uh,
Well, one of the things that, if any of you know me, I know Charlene knows me, I love technology, and I am always, if there's something that you need to do and you don't know how to do it, give me a call, because I've got something in my bucket somewhere that I can pull out and show you. And that's one of the things I want to talk to you about with some of these things that we've been doing in the EAST Lab. And the first thing that I thought was, well, you know, I'm going to have to be able to communicate with these kids. So we set up a base camp. And base camp, any of you can get a base camp. It's free. You can get, I think, unlimited base camps or projects.
It's 100.
Can you do 100 projects? That's a lot. So what we do is, as we develop projects in here, if you notice, we have cancer awareness, we have the East Block Forum, we have Education Renewal Zone, East Lab Manager, and it's a way for people to communicate with me. So if they have a question, they can just send, it keeps everything together like in a forum, like a base camp. But if Morgan sends me an email through base camp, it comes to my email box, and I can answer straight from my email box, but it posts it back to the base camp. So if you're not sure what's going on in your little base camp project, you can go in and you can look at the thread, you can do discussion boards, you can post pictures, movies, whatever you want to do. So this is a really cool tool to use. Now, one of the other initiatives that we've done a lot of stuff this semester. It's kind of amazing how much we've done. But, you know, I got to see that there's a lot of kids with a lot of different interests. And I've been on the University of Arkansas campus and in the system for about 10 years, and I know a lot of people. And I've never once gone to anyone that said, hey, would you be interested? And they'll say yes. I've never had anybody say no. So what we did was we found out what the kids' interests were, and I matched them with people on campus that hosted them for a day. They let them shadow them. So, for example, Morgan's actually shadowing me. She's working for me this summer as an intern, a paid intern. So I'm trying to teach her. I'm bringing her to this event. I'm bringing her to other events. So hopefully she's going to learn something from me. Brittany Bertram was interested in ROTC and going into the Air Force. So I called Colonel. Now I'm not a good time to forget his name. But I called him up and I said, can she come shadow? And he hooked her up with some of his cadets, and she was able to see what it is they did. She was able to talk to them. Sheldon's last name is?
Sheldon
Sipes. Okay, he is interested in IT infrastructure, and this is my good friend Scott Zemke, who works in the Walton College of Business, and that is his actual photo. If you go to Walton College and look up Scott Zemke, it's him reading a How Computers Work tutorial, so you don't know what he looks like, but he's an awesome guy. So we're actually doing a lot of cloud-based services right now in the IT department, and he was able to sit in on conversations about going to the cloud for the university. The vendor was there doing a presentation, so that was fun. And then Hunter Davis shadowed Vince Carter because he was interested in career and technical education. And then Jeremy Miller, this is the most awesome kid. He's got video skills. I'm going to talk a little bit about this equipment here in a minute. And he's doing some video work for me. And we actually hooked him up with Carl Krotke, and he was going to be able to go shadow him while they did the Condoleezza Rice. She was on campus for the lecture series that the university does. But snow intervened and a basketball championship intervened, which he was part of, so he didn't get to make it to that. But we're looking at other opportunities for him to shadow again.
The sophomore this year. So
Yeah, and
we
he's
got 2 more years.
he's going to be the next like Steven Spielberg, so watch out for Jeremy Miller. So another student, Samantha Cheatham, told me, just randomly, oh, I'm interested in forensic science and stuff. So I got to Googling, and there's actually a camp this summer at Arkansas State University that teachers can go to. Teachers get a stipend of like $2,000 to take what they learn at CSI camp and take it back into their classroom. But students, you had to apply. There was an application process, and she got accepted. So in June, she's going to ASU for 2 days to CSI camp. So I'm really excited about that. Can't wait to hear about it. In fact, I need to get her into Map Vivo so she can create a travel log so we can follow what she's doing over the course of that. So that'll be fun. Now, we talked about scheduling a campus trip for the students, just like Dr. Warren did. He had all the students come to campus. But we never could coordinate it this semester because we kept going up against deadlines, and then May hit us, and I said, oh, all our professors will be gone from June to, whatever. So we're going to do this. We're going to do it in the fall probably. But what we did instead, because the University of Arkansas has such great technologies, interactive technologies that can connect you, we have what's called LiveSize/ClearSea. The ClearSea component is kind of like a Skype component, but it's secure because it's on the university servers and network. And so what happened is they have a Skype account via ClearSea that I set up for EastLab, and they can call me. I answer my ClearSea account just like I answer my telephone. So if I'm in my office and I'm behind my desk and somebody calls me up on the ClearSea, I'll answer it. It's a video conference. We're having a conversation. And there have been times that Jean's called me and I've said, I'm in a meeting, let me call you right back, no big deal. And so, but what we do is we use the life-size unit to connect them with the Eleanor Mann School of Nursing on campus. They have a simulation lab with simulation mannequins in it. So any students that were interested in perhaps going to nursing school, they could have a conversation about this. And Jonah Cronenberg is actually the simulation technician. So he manages all the equipment. And these mannequins are very expensive. They cost $80,000 to $100,000 each. And one of the things so we connected via the life-size unit. We had a few technical issues that we worked out pretty quickly. We know we need blinds for the windows in the classroom because too much light was going into the classroom. But they were able to have a conversation with Jonah and a nurse to talk about this. And one of the things that I learned about the simulation mannequins is that you can lift their skin off of them and you can see their lungs breathe. And so, and you can actually pump blood into them, but they talk to you. I know I used to work at UAMS, and they actually have simulation mannequins that will give birth. They're crazy amazing. But anyway, it was a great event. One of the things I think we learned from that as well was high school students aren't particularly assertive in that they ask questions. So I learned a trick from Elizabeth that says gather the questions before the event and then call on somebody to ask the question that they submitted. Choose so we're going to do that, I think, on the next round. But we're talking about developing a interactive video series with Lincoln to bring all kinds of experts from anywhere in the world into the classroom so that the students can talk to them.
Using E-Team, an E-student team to manage and set this all up. So this will all be done by students after we get started.
Right. Yeah. It won't be us. It'll be student led. So, and it'll be driven on what their interests are.
Yep.
Yeah.
We already got some people that put down careers that they'd like to see come into the classroom. And we opened this up to the whole high school, and we filled the classroom. We got permission from the principal to have kids come out of class for 20 minutes for doing a video chat. And they liked it so much, and we didn't hear anything bad about it from any of the students. It was pretty amazing. And that we're going to shoot for doing a East Videos chat series twice a month and have it driven by career choices that the students submit.
Yeah, and I told them, because, they're now affiliated with the university, we are part of the Arkansas Research and Education Optical Network, ARON. And so we can reach out and touch anyone. I said, if you want the governor to come in and talk to this class, we can make that happen, you know, as long as we can get on his docket, you know. So there's tons of things we can do with this. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about this. And so I've set it up. I'm not going to demo it or anything, but this is actually, I'm going to twist it here. This is an iPad when you turn it around. So this gentleman on the right here developed this little thing that you dock the iPad into with all of these holders, and this is a lighting system, and this is a directional boom microphone. If you notice here, there's a lens, a telephoto lens that I've attached to the front of it that makes the camera zoom in further. I've got a set of headphones that are high end. This setup I paid about $1,700 for, but the most money that I've got invested in it is the iPad, because I got one with a lot of space, so I spent about $1,000 on the iPad. So if you got the lowest base model of iPad mini, you could probably get it set up for under $1,000. And this is to shoot video for all kinds of events, sporting events. So what we're doing with the kids is I'm actually contracting them to create some videos for the College of Education and Health Professions, and 2 series of videos. So, I mean, I don't have time to create videos in my job capacity, but I always contract people out, and I thought, well, why can't I contract these kids? He has an agenda, Gene does, to raise money for the East Initiative. He's got to have matching funds. So Elizabeth's going to pay them to do a ERZ video series on Adopt a Classroom and the ERZ. I'm going to pay them to do an emergency preparedness set of videos. Have you guys ever heard of Common Craft? English, in plain English. It's a series. So if you want to learn anything, just Google Common Craft in plain English, and it'll anything from doing your taxes to whatever. But it's with cutouts. So you see the little people, and they pull the people over and that kind of stuff. So I've got a subscription to that, and they're going to do emergency preparedness stuff. We're going to take a really boring document, and we're going to create these videos for faculty and staff and students on campus to know what to do in case of an emergency on campus. But this guy created this thing. This little case that goes around it was $65. And so it's really ingenious, I mean, what this guy did. So if you go to iographer.com, you can learn all about this for your school. Now, the other thing that we're going to do is, and I just tested this yesterday, we have Echo 360, which is lecture capture software, and what we are doing is we're going to capture and stream live exercise classes at the Hyper, at the University Recreation Center, at the, not in the Hyper, but in the Union. And it actually worked well yesterday, except the class that I tested was Zumba, and they had the lights down low and disco lights going, and so I'm thinking I'm going to have to talk to the instructors about the lights have to be up. You can do your disco, but it's, you know, something where people that are at the other end can see, and it worked well. So one of the things we're talking about is working with one of the athletic directors at Lincoln to create classes, because we have yoga and insanity and Zumba and, you know, all these things that we can broadcast out from the university, so they could actually have live class schedules at the Lincoln campus to have people exercise or whatever.
So basically, they're going to convert one of the we moved to a new school 2 years ago with a new gym, so they're converting the old gym into more of an open type of facility. In the old hospitality room, they're going to make into this type of a location, because it's easy to get to, that won't involve people coming through the campus to get to it, so it can be better for the community as well.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to have on-demand and live type of stuff all day long.
Yeah.
For
Well,
faculty and community.
and right now we're just doing a one-way transmission where you can't talk to people, but we also have the technology with the life-size unit that if we wanted a class where the instructor could be at the university and talk to the far location, that could happen as well, and they could see the participants and say, oh no, you know, Elizabeth, you're not doing this exercise correctly, straighten your back, lift your arms, you know, whatever, so it could be truly interactive. But we could broadcast this all over the state, and look on our website, because once we start streaming these live, and they'll be recorded as well, your schools can participate in this too, because it'll be on the university's website. So that's kind of, I think, got anything else to add?
This continues on through the summer. Some of my most involved students are, you know, they're not taking summer break. Jeremy's working at home. He could check out a computer friend and do some of this video editing. We also came up with an idea for doing a magazine magazine for the school. And we've posted on Basecamp recently so that all the people that are still participating in the summer can look at it. So this is something that will carry over hopefully 12 months at a time. The students are really engaged. The students are building careers out of these classes. They don't have to stop and lose all of that during the summer. And that's one of the coolest part about it is it's going to be year-round for these kids. I won't have to be physically at the school, which is E.Y.E. But yet we can do a lot of these things when you can even unlock the door. I can use some equipment. I can run through and do that.
And, let me add this too. I mean, from my perspective, you think I've invested a lot of time in this, but I really haven't. I do about the same thing that Rick does. 8 hours a month, but I split it. I go every other Friday for 4 hours. I sit with the 2 classes. There were 3, but the 3rd class was a little disorganized, so I just stuck with the 2 this year. But next year, I think Jean's teaching all the classes. And for me, all of the things that I've done here are already in place for the university. And for me to make a connection or to set up an account takes me 5 minutes. It's an email, it's a phone call. And so really outside of, it's kind of become my norm in my, so it's not a big investment of time, but it's a whole lot of reward on the back end. I really enjoy working with these guys. Do you want to add anything from a student's perspective?
I'll just say that from a student's perspective, it like Kevin said, it's really nice to be able to talk to an adult just on your level about any sort of problem you're having, as well as just, they have a lot of resources that you had no idea were even out there for you, so when they open that up to you, it makes it a lot easier just to see, like, maybe this is actually possible and not just some sort of pipe dream you have, so I really like having Ms. Martindale in the classroom just because I've seen other students as well that I honestly wouldn't have really expected them to do anything with it, have been more involved with her and like getting more involved in the projects, becoming leaders that I really wouldn't have expected that before. So I do think it would contribute to student growth a lot.
Do you guys have any questions that you want to ask?
I have a question about the program in general. I'm not a teacher anymore, but I know a lot of teachers who would love this. So how do schools get involved, and like how far away can a school be to get involved? If you're
You might want to. You might want to repeat the question for the audience at the other end.
So you asked, how do teachers get involved? How far could teachers be away? I have a few different things to say to that question. Thank you for asking it. So this is just our 2nd year to have Adopt a Classroom. I started this and we piloted it in spring 2013. So this is our 1st year to do an entire year. And how I do it is I email all the superintendents and all the principals in Northwest Arkansas. No, I think I just did superintendents this year. I emailed all the superintendents and gave them the information. I made flyers and asked them to pass it along to principals or teachers, however they saw fit. And it depends on the district. Fayetteville has a communications person that sent it out to all their schools. It depends on the person. It depends on the district how that or if that information gets disseminated. The registration for it this year I opened, and within about 72 hours, I had 75 teachers who wanted to participate. The pilot program was 11 teachers. So I closed the registration because I was overwhelmed in a wonderful way. And then I recruited faculty and staff and was able to recruit about 37. So only half the teachers that volunteered got a match. So I'm going to be pretty intentional the next year I already have been about recruiting more folks and trying to share the story a little bit more so that we can get more faculty and staff involved. But also I will be pretty intentional this year at looking at schools that have done Adopt a Classroom before and trying to share the wealth a little bit. So if we've had, I'm trying to think of an example. Well, Elkins this year had one at each school, at each of their 4 buildings. So we might try to get more in Huntsville next year or something like that, depending on the teachers that self-nominate. So my grant is only for Northwest Arkansas. However, the UA Fort Smith ERZ is starting this program next year, and so Fort Smith schools will have the opportunity to participate in something like Adopt a Classroom. And Rebecca and I have talked about using ClearC and life-size technology to create connections via technology. So, most of you teachers have smart boards in your rooms, or Promethean boards, or whatever. I know, at the university when I teach my classic learning theory class, I Skype in a principal from Cabot. We can do that. It's really easy to do that in a lot of the classrooms. And so
I've already set up a ClearC account for the Agra guy, Tim.
Yes.
Tim. So, I mean, setting up these accounts and getting it through a secure network is fine. All you have to have is a USB camera with an audio source.
And we could provide that. You know, I could provide that equipment to a class in El Dorado that wanted to do it or whatever. My greater interest, though, is seeing the model exist at other universities, because although I could do this at the University of Arkansas, there are wonderful people at Southern Arkansas University who could do this. There are wonderful people at Phillips Community College, professors who could do this. And I'm really interested in seeing the connection between the local, you know, college or university and the local community. Although it's great to have the university broadcast around the state as well. Bev?
We have a program that's similar
That's true.
Henderson
State.
at Henderson. So if you have folks that are in that area, you know, colleagues or friends, they might contact the ERC there. Also at ASU, Rick is beginning to work toward this. I mean, he's
Cool.
got some folks have gone at what they call the visiting professor program.
Uh-huh.
So the ERC at ASU is another possibility. And then call the other ERCs if they're in your area, because they're always looking to do things that fit whatever the needs of the schools are. And Elizabeth has done such a fantastic job of talking this up that they're all kind of, you know, oh, man, we can do this, you know. So if you have friends across the state, we'd like to see it, you know, throughout the entire state.
Yeah.
What is the timeline for, like, when you send out to superintendents? Because we may not have gotten that information filtered.
That is the case depending on your district, yes. So typically I send it out the first or second week of September. But what I think I'm going to do this year is also send it to the principals, just so that they can decide too if the people in their building are interested, if they want to project that out or not.
And is that for this coming year?
For this coming year?
In September?
Yes.
So there's still slots right now? 'Cause it
Yes,
hasn't been-
I haven't opened it yet.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a good question. So I haven't opened like registration for the next year. I'm not doing that till September. So I will send it out September, probably right after Labor Day, and get as many people as I can, and I'll keep it open usually for like, I'm going to try for a week, and then after that stop to make matches. And it's not necessarily the first 30 people that sign up. I'm looking for matches, you know, people who want to work with this type of person at the university, and I find that type of person at the university, and I can match them. And you know, it can be really specific. My first year, we had a really successful partnership between the U of A athletic bands director and the band director at Gentry High School. And there aren't a ton of music teachers who signed up, so that was a very specific partnership that worked. So it might depend on your content area if we can find anybody who can meet your need.
And you do like counselor?
Yeah.
To someone from the counseling department?
Yes, if that's what they're interested in. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So what would an adopted classroom look like? Like I teach first grade, for
Yes,
example.
I'm glad you
So
asked.
What would that look like? Like what type of person should I be looking for to match with?
Well, let me give you a couple examples.
Uh-huh.
First of all, at Elkins Primary this year, we had a lady named Grace Kerr who teaches in our childhood education program. She's a former, oh, did you have, okay, you know Grace. Okay, she's awesome. So she went in and did, worked with students on poetry. They learned about blackout poetry. I know nothing about this. This is what she's told me. And they learned about certain poets and things, and they then wrote their own poetry. And then at the end of the year, they had a poetry slam. And I wish I had pictures, because if you know Grace, she wore the glasses. She had the bongo drums, you know. They set up like a cafe, and students practiced several times, and then got up and delivered their poetry. And they were second graders. For Grace as well, and some of these adopted classroom professors, they get their students involved. So Grace brought her integrated communications class out every time with her throughout the year. So undergrads at the U of A who are studying education got to come out and work with the students as well. That's one example. Another example is also in education, though. The assistant dean at our college went out and did science lessons. One time she took termites, and termites apparently are blind. I don't know. And they, I think I learned through this program. I had no idea. And she took worker bee termites and helped the students create hypotheses and investigate the scientific method around how termites get around if they're blind. Turns out they use their sense of smell. So she did an experiment with them where they used a pencil line, a pen line, a marker, all these different things, and they were trying to figure out which one smelled the most to the termites, so the termites would follow the line. anyway, she just brought in random science lessons that she had seen done or that she created or whatever. So I don't think you need to necessarily, as an elementary person, request one certain thing. It seems like in elementary, people are pretty open.
Right.
The cotton physiologist I was talking about went to an elementary classroom.
Yeah, because I mean, my first day I wrote down like kiss fluency is such a big part of reading, and that's what first grade's all about. So like with reader's theater, maybe a drama teacher,
Yes.
or something, like come in and do reader's theater with my kids.
Everybody sees a literacy expert in reading.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or just even like linguistics, because some of that stuff is even confusing to me. Like when my kids ask me, well, why does that do that? I'm like, I don't know, it just does. Like,
I think though it's harder for me.
Just
say it. It's harder for me to convince faculty members that they can go in and talk to a first and second grade classroom, just to be honest. So I had fewer people who said, oh yes, I will do an elementary school. I kind of had to recruit them and say, they're just small people. It will be okay. I don't think they'll throw up on you.
I'm not making any promises.
Right. So the teacher then is, right, it's not a guarantee. The teacher then is really important because that person brings them in and says, oh yes, we know you teach 20-year-olds all day, but you can teach these 6-year-olds too. So the partnership becomes really, really important too. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much for coming. So nice to see you all. Yes, it's lunchtime, so just head out. You're gonna, go ahead.
Check us out on the way out. You can. I'll tell you about it.
You kind of follow the hallway around to the back. That's where lunch is, and then we're sitting in